Hey guys, so today we are doing a little bit of a different video today. Um, Today we are talking about a show that is kind of a hot topic right now. It is everybody's favorite silly little firefighter show, 911. So the reason I wanted to do this video is that this show has taken up like a majority of my headspace for the last just about a year. Um, and I don't know, I've been watching it as the episodes have come out, and I've just had a lot of feelings just like everybody else, and I've just felt the need to make a whole video about it. I don't know. So um and I am going to touch on 911 Lone Star just a little bit too, just because I've watched that too. Um, so, yeah, if you guys don't know what 911 is, it is basically a show about firefighters. Well, so there's the original 911 series that started in 2018 is based in LA, and it follows Firehouse 118. And then there's 911 Lone Star that is based in Austin, Texas, and they follow Firehouse 126. And then for both shows, they also follow one police officer and one dispatcher, both of which have relations either through a family member or by have a romantic relationship with somebody in the firehouse. So the show is not just first responders just going into situations and rescuing people, and that's the whole show. There is a lot of that, but there is also more like emotional side to it. Like, we get to see glimpses into their personal lives, and they also tackle a lot of different societal issues that they all deal with, and it showcases a diverse group of people. And there's also the idea of found family, which is very important for a lot of people these days. And yeah, so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about how I found this show. So I was first introduced to this show back in, I want to say, 2022. When I was in college, one of my friends was watching it, and I don't know, she kind of invited me over to watch, TV, and then she was like, I'm watching the show 911, it's about firefighters, and I was like, okay, I mean, whatever, because in my head I was like, oh, that's probably just going to be like a bunch of dudes just kind of like, I don't know, just saving people, and I was like, that sounds kind of boring. But then I saw these two, and I was like, okay, I'm interested. And I kept watching, and it seemed, really well written and really funny, and it wasn't it really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I watched a few episodes of both 911 and I think an episode of two of Lone Star. And I basically, so then I watched a few episodes, and then I don't know, I kind of forgot about it for a couple years until I want to say maybe I'd say about spring 2024, so last year. So I kind of got reintroduced to it with my friend, who was one of my coworkers at Panera, was also watching it, and we're sending each other things, and then suddenly she sends me a photo of uh, Buck kissing a man, and I was like, okay, the show just got more interesting. So, and then I started watching like clips of it on YouTube of, Buck and Eddie, and then Tarlos from 911 Lone Star. And then, yeah, so at this point I had seen like bits and pieces of the show, like not in order. So, and I was thinking like I should probably watch it. And then like fast forward to um, July of last year, and I was at home alone in my house that I've lived in my whole life, and naturally I was afraid of everything. Being left home alone for like the first time, uh, like for a week, and then I was like, okay, I need something to watch at night, so I'm not like just like sitting paranoid the whole time. So then I was like, you know what, let's start 911. So yeah, and then I started watching the show, and yeah, it took me about, I want to say, three-ish, no, yeah, three, like 2.5, 3 months to get caught up through season 7, because by the time I finished, they were starting to air season 8, which was back this September. And then I also got caught up on Lone Star, which was on, they were airing season 5 at the same time as season 8 of 911. And that one took me about like, yeah, about the same amount of time. I think I started it either late September, early October, and I finished in December. So yeah, by December or by Christmas I was all caught up, and then they had the last few episodes. They finished off season 5, which was actually the series finale of Lone Star. And yeah, and then they just aired the second half of season 8 of 911, which that's mostly the part that a lot of people have a lot of feelings about, because I can tell you the way it ended was not great. I mean, there were a couple things that were okay, but there's a lot of things that were not. Um, so yeah. Oh, I also wanted to talk about like some of the characters for 911. There's so first of all there's so 911, the OG from LA, has so it has Athena Grant, who is the police sergeant, played by Angela Bassett, and then there is and then in the fire station there's Captain Bobby Nash, played by Peter Krause, and then there's Henrietta Wilson, or Hen, played by Aisha Hines, and then there's Howie Hahn, or Chimney, played by Kenny Choi, and then Evan Buckley, played by Oliver Stark, Eddie Diaz, played by Ryan Guzman, and Ravi Penekar, played by Anirudh Pishardi. And then there's also, in the dispatch, there's Maddie Buckley Hahn, who's played by Jennifer Love Hewitt. And those are the main characters of the 911 show. And then 911 Lone Star, there's so the fire captain is Owen Strand, who is played by Rob Lowe. And then there's his son TK, played by Ronan Rubinstein. Marjan Marwani, played by Natasha Karam. And there's Judd Ryder, played by Jim Herrick. Paul Strickland, played by Brian Michael Smith. Tommy Vega, played by Gina Torres. Nancy Gillian, played by Brianna Baker. Mateo Chavez, played by Julian Works. And then there's Carlos Reyes, played by Rafael Silva, he's a police officer. And then there's Grace Ryder, played by Sierra McLean. So that's mostly the whole casts of each of the shows. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah, watching these shows, it's been a wild ride because it like deals with like I really love shows that like make you feel like the whole range of emotions, from like happy and like it's like there's like beautiful moments, there's funny moments, there's really sad moments, there's some like scary moments, and like have you on the edge of your seat, um, with all the like the emergencies and stuff. Um, there's some frustrating moments, but um, yeah, it's been a wild ride watching both of the shows. Um, and yeah, I was enjoying it up until a few weeks ago. But before I get into that, I guess I did want to talk a little bit about Lone Star a little bit because that show ended, and I don't know. I just want to give it a little bit of attention because that was part of my 911 experience, as well as 911. So yeah, Lone Star I thought was pretty good. Like I think the stories were all pretty solid. Because they had uh, TK and Carlos get married. Yeah, we get to see their relationship all the way through from meeting up until like getting married and then adopting TK's half brother. Uh, and then they had, and then yeah, and seeing the station get. It's been a while since I've watched the show or watched any clips of the show because I don't know, the show kind of ended, and everybody's been focusing on 911, the main 911. Um, so I thought the show was pretty good, other than the one storyline that kind of pissed me off was in season 4 when Captain Strand, he like, so this was after um, TK proposed to Carlos, and Carlos was, and they were like getting prepared for the wedding. Um, so after this, he Owen buys like a motorcycle, and then he like joins some like underground biker gang, and then they turn out to be like some sort of like neo Nazis. It was weird. And then he was trying to like, he spent most of his time like trying to just like get them arrested or something. It was very strange. I was like, why? What are you doing? Like you're supposed to be helping your son get prepared for his wedding, and also, doing your job, being the fire captain, instead of just walking around just, you know, getting involved with these crazy people. I was like, okay, why are we doing this? But anyways, yeah. Other than that, the show was pretty nice. And then they also did include a brief thing at the end, which I kind of wish we kind of talked about a little more, because so both Paul Strickland, the character, and Brian Michael Smith, the actor, are trans, and they got to talk. They had a little storyline. They had a non-binary character come on the show, and this character was like really trying to like kind of like a daredevil, trying to get like attention and views on the internet, and it got to the point where it was like a little too much, and then he had like and then Paul and this character had a little heart to heart, being like, you don't have to like go to the extremes just to get attention and prove that you exist. Like, you can just exist as you are, which I thought was really nice. That just saying that, like, you don't have to perform to, like, prove yourself as a trans person or as a person. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, so on to 911. So yeah, so this show, I was really, really enjoying it up until, yeah, through about most of the way through season 8. Oh, well, maybe not most of the way, like about halfway through season 8. Um, so, yeah, so both shows were originally started on Fox. Lone Star started and ended on Fox. And then 911 was on Fox up until, for the first 6 seasons up until season 7, and they switched to ABC. And that was in what, it was probably like 2023 or 2024. And yeah, since then they've made some interesting choices with the characters. So yeah, so now we're gonna get into the 2 reasons why most of you are here. So the first reason being, first thing they did, they killed Bobby Nash off the show. And you know, when I first saw that this was happening, my first thought was like, oh, Peter Krause probably has something else going on. He probably can't be on the show anymore. Like, he has his own reasons, has something personal going on. Come to find out, this was a creative decision by Tim Minear and the other writers. That's it. Creative decision. And his reasoning for the creative decision was it displays more realism. You know, a lot of us in real life are struggling and are dealing with our own stuff. That's why we watch your show. Just saying. Yeah, and so they killed Bobby off like about a month ago, and the episodes since then have just been just not good at all. Well, one of them was okay, but the episode that came after was the funeral episode, which was, oh my god, they did not do a good job with it at all. The funeral was like a sideline, like just a sideline 2-minute thing at the end of the episode, and the characters were like not emotional at all, apart from Athena, who's Bobby's wife. I forgot to mention that. And I think we saw Chimney like get mad because Bobby like died. So so basically what happened, there was a accident at like a lab. Somebody accidentally released a deadly virus, and that like kills you in like hours, and Chimney got infected, and Bobby was trying to save him, and then basically Bobby's like protective gear like broke or something, and then he got infected with it, and he just kind of faked it till he made it, and then he sort of like quarantined himself as they were walking out, and then he had a heart-to-heart with Buck and heart-to-heart with Athena. He's like, no, I can't go on, and then it's like, you guys leave without me, and then he's like, I got infected, I knew it for a while, but I just didn't say anything. And now Chimney's like feeling guilty because Bobby sacrificed himself to save Chimney. And yeah, so and then so that's why Chimney was really upset during that episode. But like, because they aired the episode of Bobby's death, and then they didn't air an episode the week after, and then the next episode we saw was 2 weeks, and then in between then they also in the show did a 2-week time jump in between, which is like, why don't we like show everybody like kind of grieving and mourning? Like, I think that we would have liked to see that. And the main, like, what we saw for most of that episode was just Athena, like, helping some other mother. Like, she thought that her child was, like, still alive after he had died at birth, and turned out it wasn't. Like, it was just stupid, 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 stupid. Like, like, I think, like, I really think we could have gotten a little more out of that episode. And then also, like, that was like a really shitty send off for Peter Krause, who's put, like, his whole, like, heart and soul into the show for like 8 seasons, for 8 years, or see, yeah, 8 years, because they probably filmed, because the show started in 20, they probably filmed in 2017. And like he was literally an executive producer on the show, and there was, like, they barely gave him, like, anything, and he sort of, like, remembers with, like, flashbacks and stuff. It was just really dumb. And then the other reason, like, that, like, I really hate this is that, like, my queen Athena, this poor woman cannot catch a break. Like, I'm like, oh my goodness, they've not given this woman, like, a single, like, break or, like, happiness, like, throughout the whole entire show. Like, the show starts with her, oh, well, I guess it would be her first husband, because, yeah, because the first thing we see is her husband, before Bobby coming out as gay, which obviously is fine, but that's, like, you know, like, he was keeping it for a while, and then he came out, and then, yeah, and then she had to save her daughter from, like, an overdose, and then we found out her first love was shot in, like, a bank, not a bank robbery, store robbery, and each of the characters have had, like, flashback episodes called, like, the character's name, and then it says begins, so it's like their origin story. So we saw that in Athena Begins, and then at one point there was this other guy that, like, was messing with her family, and then ended up abducting her son. And then, oh my god, and then, like, the last 2 seasons she almost, like, died on, like, a cruise ship, her and Bobby. And then this season she had to land a plane, like, on the freeway with a 10-year-old co-pilot, and she had, and then her and Bobby's house got burned down. So then, like, like, a subplot of the season was them, like, rebuilding it, like, building their dream house, and which now has been, like, totally thrown away. They did, like, a 5-minute montage for the finale, and she ended up, like, selling it to some other couple, and we don't know where she's going. I don't even know. There's just a lot of things wrong with the last few episodes. Yeah, and then there's been a lot of speculation of, like, a lot of us hoping that, like, he's not actually dead, and then hoping Bobby's not actually dead. And I don't know. There's been, like, then all the actors did, like, they just had, like, a bunch of press because they finished the season, and people have been, like, asking them about it, and then, like some of them just, like, totally, like, giggling, and, like, like like, somebody will ask them, and then they start giggling, and they're like, oh, I don't know, yeah, sorry, is he actually dead? And then they'll be like, oh yeah, he is, and, like, oh, we miss him so much, and just kind of weird energy. But yeah, so that's the first thing that's been, like, really disappointing everybody. And the second thing is probably the thing that, like, most of you are here for, I'd say, and that is that gay shit. Buddy. So there's been a long time fan speculation about the relationship between Buck and Eddie, being a couple, and making them a couple canonically. I'm a part of this hype. Um, and yeah, the show has just been like absolutely just like totally playing with us. Like, it's like the craziest, like if they actually end up going through with this is gonna be like the freaking slow burn of the century. And if they don't go through with it, then it's probably the biggest like queer baiting of the century. Because a lot of people have been comparing it to Dean and Castiel from Supernatural, which I can't really speak too much on that show just because I haven't really seen it. But I've heard there was a lot of like kind of queer baiting with that show there. Which it is a little crazy for this show to be queer baiting because there are queer characters on this show. Because, like I said, Athena's first husband was gay. That was like the very first episode that was on, that was aired. And then there's Hen and Karen are lesbians. They're married with kids. And then there's somebody. There's also Josh, who's in the. He works in the dispatch center. He's gay. Which honestly, side note, I would like to see a little bit more from him. Like, cause like I feel like the only romantic encounter we've seen with him, there was one time he got catfished by like these guys on like a dating app, and they were like criminals, and they like brought him out on this date, and then like they kind of like knew that he worked at the dispatch center, and he they like brought him to like they went to like a drive-in movie, and then they brought him to the back and like assaulted him, and then like the next episode they like showed up at the dispatch center and like held the whole place hostage, and it was just a whole mess. So honestly, like, it would be nice to see him you know, maybe have something a little better than that. But yeah, and then just Buck, and then Buck also came out as bisexual last season in season 7. Whole thing with him and Tommy. But yeah, like the whole show ever since Eddie was introduced in season 2, like Buck and Eddie have just had like the craziest, like insane, like undeniable chemistry. Like there's the kitchen scene with the "you want to go for the title."
You want to go for the title?
Yeah, that was super gay. Yeah.
There's the just random like little like flirty moments. There's so many. And then another thing that the fans have like talked about is the couch theory, which is, I forget which season. I feel like it was season 6. It was a scene with Buck, Eddie, and Chris, and then like Chris was like, "You don't even have a couch." Christopher, by the way, is Eddie's son. And Buck goes like, "Oh, the last couple couches came with girlfriends," and then they were like, "Oh, it's weird." And then like by the end of the episode, I think it was either the end of the episode or a couple episodes later, Buck goes, I think it's after, because Buck got struck by lightning, and then like he recovered from it, and then everybody was like, "How are you?" And then like he goes into Eddie's house and is like, "Don't ask how I am," and he hadn't gotten any sleep. And Eddie went to go get some beers, and then Buck falls asleep on Eddie's couch instantly, which, thinking about like the couch theory, is like, oh, so all the other couches with the girlfriends was wrong, but Eddie's couch is the right couch. So yeah, that's couch theory. And then with Christopher, so back in like was it season 4 or season 5, whichever season that Eddie got shot. So after that whole catastrophe, there's a scene where the two of them are sitting in the hospital, and Eddie told Buck about like writing his will, and he said that he put down that Buck would be Christopher's legal guardian if Eddie died or was killed or something.
But no one will ever fight for my son as hard as you. That is what I want for him.
Why, you said you did this last year. Why are you just telling me now?
Because, Evan, you came in here the other day and you said you thought it would have been better if it had been you who was shot.
So yeah, so there's that, and it's like Buck is like basically Christopher's second dad, and it's like it's just so crazy. Like the two of them are just like inseparable, and it's like you can tell there's like love there, and it definitely does feel like there's more than like just more than like a little bit more than like platonic. And the other thing is that like a lot of times they like talk to each other like they're like an old married couple, like that have been married for like 40 plus years. It's just crazy. And then especially this season, in season 8, like there was like a whole lot of stuff that really pointed towards like just a whole lot of queer coded stuff with like, because at this point we have Buck, who is bisexual. So, and some people are like, oh, it's not quite queer baiting because like one of them is canonically queer, but yeah, it is kind of queer baiting if it's like you're chipping in with another person who's like kind of queer coded, and like we all think, like everybody like feels it, and like they're just not giving it to us, because they had that whole episode of like the thing of Eddie with the priest, like him not feeling worthy of joy or like juice, and like I don't know, it's basically telling him to like be like freely, and the priest basically told him to be like be freely himself. It was just kind of crazy. And then they had another episode with Tommy, who at this point Tommy and Buck are broken up. Tommy is Buck's first boyfriend, and yeah, there was a whole scene, but yeah, and it's gotten to the point they've basically said it out loud on the show, talking about the possibility of Buck and Eddie being together. And the first scene was, yeah, Buck and Tommy ended up hooking up, and then they had kind of a fight in the morning. He's like, Buck's kind of like, oh, do you trust me? And at this point, there was a whole other thing, because Eddie had left for Texas because Christopher ended up moving to Texas with his grandparents after Eddie cheated on his girlfriend with the carbon copy of his dead wife, Christopher's mother. So Christopher ended up living with his grandparents at the end of season 7, and then this whole season was like Eddie going to get Christopher, like getting, like becoming comfortable with himself, and then going to see Christopher. So at this point Eddie was in Texas, and Buck was with Tommy, and he was like, oh, do you trust me? Something like that. And then Tommy was like, oh yeah, I do, now that the competition's out of the way. And then Buck's like,
wait, Eddie?
and then it's like, And then Buck's like, oh, Eddie's straight. And then Tommy's like, oh, okay. And then Buck goes and, like, kind of vents about it to Maddie. And he's like, oh, could you even believe that, like, he would even say that I'm in love with Eddie? And then Maddie's like, yeah, I wouldn't be so crazy. And it's like, and then he said this line that was like, seemed it was like it was more directed at the audience. That was like, oh, everybody wants me to be pining for my straight best friend. And it was like, okay, like everybody who, like, just, like, on the show, like, the only people who've said that are just Tommy and now Maddie. And when it says everybody, it's like everybody who's been going and speculating about this for years. So it felt like a little bit of a jab at the audience. Also, I wanted to add another uh, detail that I remembered from the show. So when Buck and Tommy first got together, basically the whole episode, it seemed like Buck was trying to get Eddie's attention for most of it, but then once he started talking to Tommy, he's like, oh, trying to get your attention has been really difficult. And then even Tommy's like, my attention, like, it still seemed like there was like it seemed like he was more trying to get Eddie's attention the whole episode. And then yeah, it just seemed it was so weird. Anyways, that was just something else that I remembered after I finished filming. Yeah, anyways, back to the video. And then when Eddie said he was actually leaving for Texas, that was like about halfway through the season. And then when he left, and then like they had this whole, like, they got mad at each other, and then it was like Eddie was like, oh, like talking to someone buying the house, is like, oh, I don't, like, yeah, there's no ties here. And then Buck got mad, like, oh, you don't care about me. And then he was like, and they had like a whole fight. And then later on, they're like moving Eddie out, and then like, yeah, you do matter to me, by the way. And then yeah, and then they end up hugging it out, and then it was like like right next to each other, and like just they like zoomed in on both of their faces, and they had like this, like, it almost seemed like they were like realizing, and he was like realizing his feelings for Buck or something. And like they're like hugging, basically their ears like right next to each other, like Buck's face buried in Eddie's shoulder. And I saw this, and I immediately thought, I was like the only people I've ever hugged like this, I think, are people that I've like actually like had like feelings for. Like I don't even really hug my family like that. It's like, oh my goodness. But yeah, it's just like they like bring us so, because the show just like brings us so close to the actual thing happening, and then they're like, oh, never mind. Like the last couple episodes, like they like barely even interacted, other than like they had like a kitchen fight scene, like because they were both grieving, and then Eddie was talking about going back to Texas after coming back for the funeral because he got a job, and then they like didn't tell Buck, and then Buck was like oh, you think I'm fragile, like, and then they were fighting over like, then he was like, oh, you make everything about you. What was it? He said something about the like trials and tribulations of Evan Buckley, something in 97X. That was funny. But he was like, and then we did get to see a little bit of like Eddie's reaction, like Buck called him in the middle of the night, and then he waking up and trying not to scare Christopher, which it's just everything's just kind of a mess right now. And then like the final episode, like they barely even interacted, and then I thought like, oh, and then they were talking about Buck was talking about transferring out of the 118, and Eddie going back to Texas, and basically Chimney, they ended up bringing them back mostly just because Chimney made this whole speech about everybody, like, we need to stay together and continue Bobby's legacy and like maintain what he built at this fire station. And it was just like, okay, like, it would have been better if they like came to that realization and like kind of made the decision themselves rather than just because Jimmy told them to. But yeah, so Eddie ended up moving back into, oh yeah, so I keep forgetting to mention things. I'm assuming that most of you watching this video have actually seen the show, but I just keep forgetting to mention. Yeah, so Buck ended up moving into Eddie's house after Eddie left for Texas. So then the end of the show, Eddie moves back in, and I was thinking, oh, you know, they might have Eddie and Buck and Christopher all live together. But no, Buck is house hunting, looking for a new place. Yeah, they said we can't have that. But yeah, it's just a whole mess. And then just thinking about, like, you know, Oliver Stark and Ryan Guzman, they have chimed in on this, the whole this whole situation. And yeah, Oliver has said that he's down to like do whatever with the relationship. So like if it ends up going that way, he's cool with it. And I don't know, like, but he also did say like he really wants them to do it right, which, I mean, honestly, I was thinking about that too, like, since this is such like a huge thing that people want, like, I'd say, yeah, like, there was kind of a lot of pressure to, like, you know, do it like, you know, the right way, which I feel like the right way would have been like they would have done it a while ago, but especially now. But like, yeah, if they end up doing it next season, they have to like do it in a way with like the realization, because first they have to like realize their sexuality. Well, Buck already has, but I guess, yeah, Eddie still needs to, and then realize their feelings for each other, and then like, you know, have their first whatever confession or kiss or whatever it is, and then just blossoms from there. So there was kind of a lot of pressure to like, you know, do it in a good, you know, way. And then as for Ryan, I don't know, like every time he gets asked about it, he's just kind of like I don't know. And then they did do a lot of press this week, and it was just totally like, a lot of people called it buddy maxing, because like it was like that's all anybody asked them about Oliver and Ryan about, and then there was a lot of talk about it, and then we got nothing in the show. So that's kind of why everybody's saying we're baiting, because they were on a show that was like, that usually has like celebrity couples or like people who play couples on shows, and then they had Oliver and Ryan on it, and then they did like they did the BuzzFeed thirst tweet, which was hilarious. Just the two of them, and which, by the way, I just realized I think I have a little bit of a slut strand, just like Ryan. Except that my slut strand is because my hair is deteriorating, and I think his hair just does that. But yeah, Ryan also said like he was like, oh yeah, like we've had like, it's kind of cool. Like, what if we explore like the way we have it now, like hetero men and homosexual men, like, you know, being like always being there for each other, and like, you know, always supporting each other no matter what. I was like, yeah, that is cool, but also I also have heterosexual male friends, and I do not speak to them like I've been married to them for 40 years. So honestly at this point, I think the damage has been done, and like if the show doesn't if they don't decide to go with this plot line, then it's just gonna be like the queer bait of the century. Apart from Supernatural, I guess. And then, like I said, yeah, if they end up going with it, it'll be the slow burn of the century with really weird middle parts, like right now. Um, but yeah, and I've heard I've heard other people, like everybody else is on our side. Like I think Jennifer Love Hewitt has been like, yes, I think they should be together too, and even Gavin McHugh, who plays Christopher, has even said like, yes, make it happen. And it's just like, what are we like, why are we not doing this? Like, I don't know, maybe the writers are just trying to, maybe they think we're like too obsessed, and like, I don't know. But they did answer, Oliver and Ryan did answer a question about like why are we so obsessed, and I've been thinking about that myself. I'm like, why am I so obsessed with like them getting together? Why are we? And Oliver answered, and he was like, just the idea of having someone that's like with you like through thick and thin, and like all the highs and lows, like they're always gonna come and save you, like that's what everybody wants. And I was like, yeah, that is like good, but I also wanted to add my own sort of thoughts to that, because there are two guys that, like, they're not these machismo firefighter dudes that are just like all just like, oh, I'm a manly man all the time, and like they're a lot more in tune with their emotions, and you get to see a more sensitive side of them, and then they're like good people, and also they're also attractive, and yeah, and I think like it's just like what a lot of people want in their life, and it's like for some of us, I don't know, it's a little hard to come by. But yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really wanted to say. I don't know. There's a bunch of other things. Just like, yeah, the show has taken up like a majority of my headspace for the last year, and I was enjoying it up until now. I really was enjoying it up until now. It's just kind of disappointing. Like, I mean, we did get some wins this season with like Ken and Karen. Got to adopt Mara, who's their second child with Denny. But like I feel like we could have gotten a little bit more development with that, and then like Maddie and Chimney having their second baby, and just yeah, we all just want Bobby alive and Buddy canon, and we also want Ravi to be more of a main character, because I think he got introduced in about like season 4, I think, and he's been kind of like in and out of the show through the seasons. Like he was only in the second half of this season. Yeah, so we'd like to see. We also still haven't gotten like a Ravi Begins episode, even after like everybody else has. Like I think the last one was like Buck Begins in like season 5. I think that was the last one we ever got. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and to be honest, I kind of need a break from the show. Like I'm happy like we're getting like a few months off from the show, because I need to watch something else. Like I don't know. Maybe I'll like rewatch Heartstopper or something. And I know there's like I think instead of a season 4, they're doing like a movie, and then like Kit Connor and Joe Locke are like the executive producers or something, which that sounds really cool. And I'm excited for that. And then I'm trying to think of like other things that I've watched recently. I watched, oh yeah, about a couple months ago I watched Mid-Century Modern, which is a sitcom with Matt Bomer in it. He's kind of my new man crush lately, and I don't know. I'm not super big on sitcoms, but like a couple episodes in, I kind of got into it. It was funny, so I would recommend it. But yeah, I think there's a couple other things that I wanted to watch, but yeah, I can't think of them right now. But yeah, so yeah, that's what's been partially on my mind lately, 911, and then stuff going on in my own life. Yeah, next video I think I'm gonna talk about some more personal stuff. Yeah, this was just something that I really needed to like get out and get off my chest. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.